What's up, guys? Anthony from the Scale with Sales team here, and we are back with another training. Today, it's going to be everything you need to know about overcoming cost objections, okay? Price objections, it's going to be the objection 90% of the time. It's going to have some correlation to whatever objection you're getting, because even all the other objections, right? If your product was cheap, most people would still do it. They'd overcome their objections themselves. So usually it's the cost, okay? So this guide's going to provide a few strategies we're going to go through for what to do on these calls to prevent cost objections, how to shift the perspective and belief systems that your clients have to be able to handle those objections, and then just a couple word tracks as well that you guys can write down. I encourage you to watch this video, write down, script out some stuff yourself, try it out a little bit, and we'll go from there. All right. So also, guys, if you're looking to get better at sales yourself, maybe you're a high ticket closer and you want to start knocking out some bigger commission months, right? You're not in the game to make 5-10 grand a month. You're in the game to make 15 to 25 grand and potentially transition out of that. Or if you're a coach and you're looking to improve your closing skills so that way you can scale your business, run more ads, get more calls booked. If you're looking for help, feel free to reach out, ask sales questions anytime, book a call. Would love to potentially work together in your business to help you get better at closing, all right? Link to this document will be below as well, guys, okay? In the description. So first, we want to understand why we're getting cost objections. Why do they come up, okay? So cost objections, they often mask a deeper concern, okay? Because when a prospect thinks or they say it's too expensive, they're really expressing uncertainty about the return on investment, about the value, okay, that is the product. Because think about it like this. I always use this example. If I were to give you, let's use a really superficial example, a Lamborghini, okay? If I was to offer you a Lamborghini for $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000, anybody with half a brain, they'd say that's a good deal. They would find the money even if they're broke. Maybe they want to keep the car because it's sick and it's a good deal. Maybe if they're smart, they would get the car, they buy the car for 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, sell that car for whatever it's worth, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, depending on what type of Lambo I guess you have, right? And so it's really never a matter of the cost alone. It's typically a matter of the uncertainty. Okay, because if they really felt like the value is there, they would do anything. They would get somebody else in on it. They would cut them a profit share for their own business or whatever they're doing. They would make it worthwhile to get somebody else's help to do this. Okay, that's the whole point. So the prospects are on your call because they desire change. They want to change. They do want some type of help. Whether you're selling B2B and it's to increase revenue, solve problems, or improve themselves, if they're working on their health, their fitness, their relationships, okay? So their interest alone signals that they have recognition of a need, okay? And the price concern is temporarily overshadowing that need. They forget the whole reason why they get on the call, because most people have limiting beliefs about money. When most people are coming to you, they're coming to you because they have a problem. Remember that. So if they have a problem, what are the qualities and attributes they're probably most likely representing? They're probably stressed out. They're probably bothered. Something's bothering them in their life. They have a problem. They want help with something. They're at to the point where they're looking to pay somebody for help with something. They're probably in pain, okay? They're not in like this open-minded situation thinking scenario all the time. So it's totally normal to get cost objections, and this is why. All right, so start to think about that a little bit more. So what we want to do is we can't just rely on payment plans to cause people to want to take action, okay, to overcome cost objections. When we do that by only, having payment plans, by just pitching lower and lower and lower and lower prices, we're not getting that commitment. We didn't really change the belief of that person, okay? We're just trying to offer them a better and better and better deal, which is actually decreasing the value of our offering and of our product, okay? Because we're saying it's worth less and less and less and less every time we try to cut a deal. And secondly, the thing about that is you're going to collect less cash, and your prospect is going to have less skin in the game, right? They're putting less money down, okay? So it's just a net negative for all parties involved to only rely on handling the cost objection with payment plans. So what's a better solution is to do it proactively. So there's 4 things I'm going to go over with you guys. There's the proactive approach, reframing limiting beliefs about cost, results-based thinking, and then be blunt. Proactive. We want to pre-handle all objections. That's the goal of discovery. One of the biggest reasons why we run discovery on our sales calls is to ask questions that allow us to overcome objections, okay? Cost being the objection that, like I said, you're going to get 90% of the time. Most people are afraid to pre-handle it. They pre-handle everything else. They say, oh, does your wife need to be involved? Does your husband need to be involved? Do you have the time? Everybody avoids pre-handling the cost objection for some reason, even though that is the main objection you're always going to get. So we need to pre-handle the cost objection. The way that you do that is by asking them why they haven't taken action so far on this. What prevented them from taking action? Okay? So, for example, one of the offers that I sell for right now, we sell business coaching, okay? A lot of people have had the desire to get a business coach or to start an online business for a while before they decide to finally book a call. And so the thing is, I like to ask, well, what's prevented you from taking action or doing something like this before? A good percentage of the time, you're going to hear it's the cost. Well, what do you mean it's the cost? Have you ever had a call like this before? Like, what makes you think that you can't afford something like this? Okay, now we're going to get the real objection. Oh, well, I was on a call with somebody and they said it was $20,000 before. Okay. That's now we're getting some clarity. Now we can dig into that. Other reasons they might tell you. Okay, so why haven't you done it before? Why haven't you done something about your situation before? They're going to tell you it's the cost, the time, whatever. You got to try to get the cost out of that. It's the cost. What do you mean it's the cost? We didn't even go over the price of this yet. Like, how do you know that you weren't able to do something like this? Because that's the truth, guys. Like I kind of to take back my word. I said payment plans, not to rely on that, but I don't mean don't use them. I'm just saying don't rely on that as being the only way that we handle financial objections. By all means, you're going to have to use payment plans. Okay, so we ask them why. All right, we get into pre-handling the cost objection right there. Could you see how you letting the price, you letting the cost of something hold you back from taking action, as opposed to trying to explore and figure out how to make this work, right? Do you see like how that's put you in the situation that you're in right now? Or how long has this been? And how long has this been this way? And what's the consequence of you staying in this position? Are you okay with that? Right? So we could just keep going. Sorry, I'm getting into flow state, you know what I mean? But you guys can just keep, really like spinning that, okay? Next is I like to use a cleanup question at the end of my discovery. So what I mean by that is I tried my best to pre-handle all objections, but I came up with this idea. It's called a cleanup question. It's to clean up any loose ends, tie up any loose ends, okay? Is there anything else that you feel like is there anything else that could impair your ability to start something like this and actually see success that we haven't touched on yet? They're going to give you their objection every single time. We want the objection to come out before we pitch. That's the goal here, guys. So between the way that I just showed you how to do a little bit of disco, and this is something that we can work on more in depth. I'm just trying to give you a quick training, okay? And then using a cleanup question. All right. So pre-handling objections, we just went over that. Reframing the investment conversation. So they're saying it's the cost because they believe they can't afford it. They believe it's not worth it. So we need to reframe the way that they're thinking about the cost. Do you feel like you're thinking about this maybe more so in terms of an expense than an investment? That's a really good question. Okay, do you feel like the cost, like what makes you say that? Are you just not in a great financial position? Like they're going to tell you what's going on, and normally it's because they're not in a great financial position. So let me ask you this, is you not being in a great financial position or where you want to be, would you say that's more so the problem or the symptom? I don't know why I have a solution. The problem or the symptom? Pretty much we want to get it to the point where we can tell them, do you see how it's actually the symptom? Because if you had the business already, okay, if you had X, Y, and Z result, you knew how to do X, Y, and Z, you had this business, you knew how to get clients, what would you have if you had that skill set? Oh, I'd have clients. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'd be making money. Yeah. So it's kind of funny how you're here to make money because we don't have money. So is it fair to say like you not having the money isn't actually the problem, it's the symptom? If we give you the skills and we give you the education and the accountability to develop the skills, you'll actually develop the income and you won't have the problem that you have anymore. Does that make sense? And if the cost wasn't associated, like why would you do something like this? So now you can also have them sell you. And then secondly, I like to do binary personas. Now this, a lot of people use this when they're handling objections after the pitch, after the price drop. You can also do it before. So one way to do this is to say there's typically two types of people in this situation. There's people that say, you know, I can't do it. I don't have any money, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do anything. And then there's somebody who typically says, yeah, I'm not in a great situation right now, but how can I do this because I know I need to do something, right? Most people are the first person, and they usually wait until their situation gets really, really bad. They get really pissed off, depressed, like in a really tight spot to where they have to do something. But the problem is usually when most people get to that point, then they can't do anything. And then there's somebody who does something more proactively. So even though it's uncomfortable. So who do you think gets to their goal faster, more effectively? Okay, why? You want to align their identity with the second person that takes action, not the first, okay? So that's another strategy that we can do. And then the lastly here, what else did I have? I had reframing limiting beliefs, results-based thinking. It's the same thing. Being blunt. Most closers are not willing to be bold and brash, and they don't know how to. And due to their unwillingness to learn and their unwillingness to change, they're going to keep dealing with cost objections. Guys, you got to be real, okay? The problem is it's not that you don't know how to be real and be blunt on your sales calls. It's that you don't want to be. You're afraid to be. Because if you weren't afraid to be, you would have a higher willingness to learn and a willingness to change, and you would know how to do it. So if you want the results to change in your business and how you think about sales, you need to change the way that you see things first, okay? Because if you can't handle objections because you're afraid of tension and you know that's what you should be doing, it's the same thing as your prospects being afraid to join. You see how you are both being afraid on both sides of the equation. You're literally getting back, you're reciprocating, your life is a mirror. You being afraid to be more blunt and brash on a sales call and not real, you're projecting your fear. Your prospect is afraid as well, okay? So what would be a better solution is to understand that we can actually have these conversations, be bold and brash and be real and be the closer that separates himself, the coach that separates themselves, that says the harsh shit, okay? We could do that in a way where we still mitigate tension. There is a way to do that, okay? So, you know, whatever you need to do to open up your willingness to be that way, you could just be real. Because the truth is, most of your prospects, their situation's already just bad. I came up with this. One of my favorite ways to handle the cost objection, the price objection, is to say, hey, man, like, is it fair to say, like, you're already in a bad spot? You're already in a shitty spot. Crazy story, guys. I had a guy on a call one time. He was on unemployment. He was collecting. He was in a really bad situation. And I felt really called to do this. And I looked at him. And I'm like, dude, you're already fucked. And, you know, part of my language, right? And he liked me so much for saying that he found the money, he came back and he closed. So, guys, you being real, that's what people are buying into because that means they can trust you. If you're being real, that means you're trustworthy, which means your solution is probably trustworthy, which gets rid of a lot of skepticism and uncertainty. So you need to be able to be blunt. And the truth is, telling your prospect their situation's already bad, you know, kind of brings it to the surface and just lets them let go of that tension. They accept and admit, which drops a lot of that tension, which allows them to see things differently and close. I hope this was helpful, guys. You know, check out the rest of our YouTube. Please drop a subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram if you have any sales questions. And if you want more help with sales, book a call with our team. Peace.